Trump has just bombed Iran, but let's go to something even more important. What if Al Gore won in 2000? So we need to go back to 2000. Florida, in an alternate history, Florida was called for Al Gore and stayed that way the rest of the election night. And George Bush made his concession speech congratulating Al Gore for becoming the 43rd president. Now, we all know what happened in the early 2000s, 9/11. And many people say 9/11 happened because of weak security and, like everything, it was blamed on the 2000 election because after November, I think it was 5th, when Florida was too close to cool, it had like 34 days of not knowing who it was, with all these recounts, lawsuits on both sides, and then neither side had enough time to like make up their administration. But let's say, for sake of argument, Al Gore won that state for the whole entire night and became president. And so this could mean that 9/11 wouldn't have happened, but let's say it did. Now, what does change is Afghanistan. Al Gore would have probably sent troops to Afghanistan. We would have stayed in Afghanistan. But what wouldn't have changed? No, what would have changed is Iraq. Al Gore spoke strictly against Iraq and probably wouldn't have invaded Iraq, and possibly the 9/11 events wouldn't be so dramatic and so impacting as it was today, because we didn't have this war on terror. Plus, Bush signed the No Child Left Behind Act that gave funding to schools that needed it. So, and he done lots of tax cuts, but we already had Clinton's tax cuts too. So Al Gore wouldn't have done the No Child Left Behind, so possibly education, who knows, wouldn't have been so betterly funded. And as the war of terror didn't last that long under Al Gore, we would have left Afghanistan much, much, much more sooner and in a better style than we did in 21. Now, let's say the war on terror didn't take up his whole presidency, he would be involved in the environment and climate change. He would spend lots of money on new green energy and money, tax incentives for companies to produce wind turbines and green stuff. Now, as I would see it, in the first few maybe years of this new stuff, the CO2 levels would drop and it would be a much more greener place in America. But and then what I believe Al Gore would have done, he never said he would, but I believe he would have, was brought in a carbon tax. And we all know how carbon taxes affected Canada, and we all know how unpopular the former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, was with his carbon tax. Don't even get me started on Mark carbon tax, Carney. This video's about Al Gore. If Gore won re-election in 2004, he would have used Hurricane Katrina as another thing for climate change to act for. But we all know one thing that happened in the 2000s, the 2008 financial crisis. Now, we're not sure how much it is on Bush's fault, or Clinton's fault for that thing. Yeah, it was Clinton and Bush's. They partially had both of their faults, but if you just looked at the housing market back then, you couldn't see it was going to crash. So, yeah. But that was the next guy's problem, as Al Gore, if he did win re-election, I don't think he would have. He would have left in 2009. And that was the next person. Then I think it would probably have been Barack Obama. So Al Gore won. Then in 2004, he would either run against George Bush or run against McCain. In 2004, Bush or McCain. And then in 2008, it would be Obama and probably McCain, and then Obama served 2 terms, and then it would probably either be Trump or DeSantis. But with Al Gore, security might have been a lot weaker due to 9/11 and the war on terror not being as not popular, but impacting as it is. So possibly there might have been more terrorist disasters. But there's no point thinking about it, as Bush won by 580 votes, but some people say 1 vote from the Supreme Court. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Leave a comment down below. Who do you think was better, Al Gore or George Bush? Personally, neither, in my book. Didn't have a strong view about any of them.